Today I want to cover the concepts in the book Let Them by Mel Robbins. It's a fabulous book, and really and truly I'm going to sum it up in a few simple concepts for you so that you can read it if you want, but you don't have to, and I don't think anything in this is going to be earth-shattering. I'm Jackie Elmer. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com. Now, I have a mantra that I've lived by for a number of years. Once my children grew into adulthood and I realized I no longer had control, if you will, over their decisions, the way they choose to live their lives, or what they wear, what they eat, or any of that. And so I came up with a mantra, which is simply, my children are not responsible for my happiness, nor is anyone else. But it worked great for my children, and it's worked great for keeping other people in mind too. And really and truly, when we can release other people in our own minds of in any way influencing our ability to find joy in the day, to find happiness, it truly sets us free and it sets them free. Now, that is not letting them, and accepting other people's choices is not the same as agreeing with it or even condoning it. But I know for me, one of the things that I've had to learn to do is to let go of my own ego around what's right and what's wrong, what's truthful. The only thing that really matters for me personally is what I find right and wrong and truthful, and I will bring myself so much more happiness when I can release others to decide for themselves as well. So let them really and truly is about realizing that other people are going to make the choices and do the things that they're going to do. And my role is to let them do what they're going to do and to let myself be free from my own ego, my own judgment, or any of that. So when you can really put that into play, you can put it into play in every aspect of your life. Take your spouse or romantic partner, take that person. Again, they're not responsible for your happiness. They're going to choose to do things that aren't going to make you happy in pursuit of making themselves happy. Now, letting them and accepting their behaviors also is not the same as not setting very clear boundaries for yourself. And I think it's important to note that boundaries really and truly are not about setting an ultimatum or telling somebody else how they have to do things. More than anything, a boundary is set up for you to decide, this is what is and is not acceptable to me in terms of behaviors that I'm going to tolerate. I'm not going to ask you to change. What I am going to let you know, though, is that for me personally, I don't find this acceptable. So I'm going to choose not to be in your presence, not to be with you, not to be around you, or whatever that encompasses if you're engaging in these type of behaviors. Again, not asking them to change, not setting an ultimatum or even an expectation of them. More than anything, setting an expectation for yourself of what works for you. That's an important thing to note. So when you're thinking about let them, keep that in mind as well. It's not about saying that anyone can do anything around or to you, but it's allowing them to be who they're going to be with no expectations of them. Have expectations for yourself, but not necessarily for them. Now, the concept of the story started, as I understand it, I've been listening to Mel Robbins' podcast for a number of years, and she recently published the book, but she had released a podcast about it when I believe it was her son was headed to senior prom, and it was raining, and they hadn't, the group, it was a group event, and the kids hadn't planned ahead for the nice fancy dinner that our generation was used to with prom, and they were just going to go to a taco stand. And Mel went into like, oh my God, you can't do that. Like, that's not what you do for prom. You're all dressed in these beautiful tuxes and dresses and everything else. And her older daughter basically said, Mom, let them do what they want to do. And really and truly over time, even yourself, like I think back on my senior prom, I vaguely remember it. I do remember that we went to a nice restaurant. That's all I remember. I don't know what I had. I remember that I was wearing a maroon dress, but other than that, most of it escapes me. And most of us really, when we look back on certain things that we feel are pivotal moments in our childhood and in our past, we realize that once it's all said and done, it doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't really matter that much. So the let them theory really and truly is designed to set you free from your ego, from your judgments, and for your expectations of others and how they need to behave in order for you to feel happy. Happiness is a choice. Each of us have the opportunity every single day to choose happiness for ourselves. We can choose not to love somebody else's choices, but realize at the end of the day, for the most part, those consequences aren't going to shower themselves down on me. They get to do what they want. I can do what I want. So we mentioned, love relationships, same with our children as they grow into adulthood. We bring them into this world. We raise them the best that we can. We hope to instill our values and our traditions and a lot of that on them. But at the end of the day, just like you and I, every generation is different. And I know for me, one of the things that I've asked myself over and over again over time is, when I start getting into judgment over something my adult children are choosing to do, I always ask myself, did I want my parents' permission? Did I call them and run every idea that I ever had by them? No, I was busy traveling the world, working in the airline industry, not giving a care in the world as to whether or not my parents had a thought or a feeling about some of the things that I was doing. So I always try to check in first and remind myself, I didn't want my parents' opinion in my 20s, my 30s, maybe a little in my 40s, but unless I asked, I wasn't interested in their opinion. And so that's how I've learned to run my own relationships with my adult children. If they don't ask, I don't offer. I have plenty of opinions. That's what my morning pages is for, is writing it down and venting it out and getting all of it out there and still being able to be loving, kind, compassionate, and in a relationship with those people. Same with friendships. Every person who comes through our life serves specific purposes. And I always like to remind myself of reason, season, and lifetime. Some people come into our lives for a reason. Some people come in for a season. And sometimes the reason catapults the season, or, is the catalyst for the season. And then, of course, there's the lifetime theory. So you have to think about those things for yourself when you're looking at relationships. So I would love your feedback. Have you read the Let Them theory? What are your thoughts around it? What are your thoughts around your ability to release anybody else from being responsible for your happiness and realizing that every day you have the opportunity to choose? Please drop a comment below, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com, and stay tuned because I'm going to be bringing you the highlights of each chapter, or the important chapters from the Let Them Theory book by Mel Robbins.